It's like the movie's based on that story. We don't know if that's an alien cruiser or just a regular.
Is Travis coming back?
Hey guys, heard you were talking about my story. What thrills you more?
Science fact.
Or the unknown and mysterious?
In each episode, James and I will go head to head, I with the scary science fact,
and me with a compellingly spooky story about aliens, ghosts, ghouls, or cryptids.
This is an interactive experience where each of us will have 3 minutes to entertain you, the audience.
And at the end of the episode, you guys will vote on a winner.
And the loser has to endure one of the punishments seen here on this, the Wheel of Sin. This is science
versus supernatural.
Conflict of interest. How's life, James?
It's good. I didn't eat a, spicy cricket, so I'm feeling pretty swell today on this fine night. And I'm ready to tell you about a really creepy story. One of my favorites, Hannah. One of my favorite alien abduction stories.
More aliens. Original.
A different type of alien, though.
Not a baby this time.
Not a long-legged. These are your
baby.
classic gray aliens.
The classic gray.
Little foreshadowing for the audience. How are you feeling about this one? Feeling confident?
I'm feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
A little shaky after the last two, though. I have a pretty good story for you today. Just kidding. You tell stories.
I tell stories that are, stories happen all the time. This morning I woke up, brushed my teeth, I went to work. It's a story, but it doesn't make it untrue. You know what I mean? Am I wrong?
No, you're not. I don't know why I found that funny.
All right, Hannah, as I said, this is one of my favorite alien abduction cases. Might be my favorite, to be honest, because there's a whole movie about it, and it's a great movie. And I think a lot of the audience probably already knows what this story is, but it's the Travis Walton case. All right?
I've never heard of it.
I think you have.
Have I?
Probably. Won't explain how, but so it's 1975. All right, it's the 70s. Everyone's got those flared pants. Everyone's listening to disco and rock and roll, and it's a fun time. Travis Walton, 22-year-old man, starts working in a 7-man crew, a forestry crew in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forests in Arizona. The crew was led by Michael H. Rogers, aged 28. On November 5th, 1975, Travis Walton is reported missing by the rest of the crew. So, here's the story. The crew claimed that they saw a bright object above the ground as they were carpooling back home from work. They saw this thing. It looked kind of like this red. The sky was just full with red. They're like, what? What is that? And they decide to go and drive over and check it out. And when they get there, they see this big hovering object floating in the sky. This is what they all claimed. They stuck to it. Travis Walton decides to get out of the car and get a closer look. Everyone's like, whoa, 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 come back. What are you doing? He gets out, walks up. A beam of light hits him, sends him flying backwards. Everyone starts panicking. Like, what the hell happened? He starts getting sucked up into a beam of light in the sky.
Oh,
everyone else... It happens,
It happens.
It happens. Everyone else gets into the car, drives off, just hauls it out of there.
Get new friends, Travis.
Well, here's the thing. They're driving down the road, and they're like, you know what? We can't just leave him there. They head back about 15 minutes later. Travis is gone. So is the craft. Everything's just gone. Barren, right? Poor Travis. So the crew calls Deputy L.C. Ellison. Sheriff Marlon Gillespie and Deputy Kenneth Copeland are dispatched. On November 7th, a search party of nearly 50 people begins searching for Walton, but there's just no sign of him. By the next day, the story starts getting media attention because, all these guys are saying that an alien abducted their friend. No one knows where he is. Obviously, you could see why a story like this is kind of interesting.
Something going on.
Yeah. By the 11th, the forestry crew undergoes polygraph tests. to determine if they harmed Walton. Because that's kind of the first thing, right? Okay, your friend's missing. You're in the woods with him. Did you kill this man? All their tests, all their polygraph tests came back. They passed them all. Both that they'd seen a thing and that they just didn't know where Travis was. Except for one guy, Alan Dallas, his test came back inconclusive. So it was kind of, obviously polygraph tests, they're not 100% accurate, but it is interesting that all of these guys did them and they all passed. I do find that interesting. All right. Then Travis Walton shows up. The story ends kind of happily, right? Sort of. On November 12th, around midnight, Walton calls his sister from a payphone. He reaches her husband, Grant Neff, who drives to pick him up. The next day, medical professionals visit Travis, and they note that there is a puncture mark in his arm.
Drugs. Sorry.
Aliens. Walton soon reveals that he lost consciousness after being struck by this beam of lightning, and then he woke up.
Lightning?
Well, it was like a beam of lightning. A beam of power from this ship. Wakes up in a hospital-like room with 3 short, bald creatures standing over him. Big eyes, little tiny mouths. Basically your classic gray alien. They started trying to do experiments on him, but he managed to fight them off. And apparently they didn't even talk, They
Nobody's
just kind of...
touching my anus.
Well, you know what? You can't blame him.
Sorry.
I'd try fighting them off, wouldn't you?
No, I don't blame him at all.
Yeah. Well, that's what he did. And apparently they're very weak. Like, he just was able to push them aside.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then he was led into another room by a more humanoid-looking figure with, like, a helmet. And then he just lost consciousness again. That's when he found himself walking along a highway 5 days later, where he eventually made the phone call on the payphone. So it's an interesting story. Okay. Really, for me, for this one, is when you hear him in interviews, his accounts are very detailed. He's stuck with this story.
He's more convincing than you.
Well, I'm not him, and I wasn't there, so that makes sense. But he's stuck with it since 1975, and his story's never changed. And I find it interesting that everyone involved said they saw this thing. Now, could they be making it up? There's always a possibility, but I don't know. Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that?
And I will say, with how grandiose the universe is, I don't not believe that there's something out there.
That's the
Whether
thing.
or not they visited Earth is up for debate. But, did the government get involved?
Well, I don't know about the government. I mean, maybe since, we don't know if government officials talked to him.
Tried to
we don't really...
shut him up.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
But initially, I think it was just local police trying to look for him.
Yeah.
But I always find aliens interesting because, like you said, space is huge. I know aliens got to be somewhere out there.
And even as a woman of science, I mean, aliens.
Woman of science. What degree do you have, by the way, in scientifics? Is that what it's
actually, let me just... that one.
It's a fun story.
To be honest though, I don't think I've heard that one before.
There's a great movie called Fire in the Sky.
Is that what it is?
That's the movie. It's like the movie's based on that story. We don't know if that's an alien cruiser or just a regular.
Is Travis coming back?
Hey guys, heard you were talking about my story. Yeah. So yeah, there we go.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
I got one for you.
All right.
Let's do it up.
I'm ready to learn.
Let's talk about the Cold War, the Soviet Union, and the biological weaponization of the plague. In the late 1980s, amidst the Cold War's icy grip, the Soviet Union was engaged in a chilling race, not just for military supremacy, but for a weapon more insidious than any bomb. I'm talking bigger than nukes. And so they turned to something else, and that something else was the plague, aka the Black Death. For those of you who don't know, pick up a book. But the plague was an incredibly infectious disease caused by bacteria, specifically the Yersinia pestis, I believe, which is a zoonotic bacteria usually found in small mammals and in their fleas. All in all, the disease took out somewhere between 75 to 200 million people. Dying from the plague, it was not a fun experience. It was pretty painful. Duh. Symptoms often started suddenly and included fever, chills, weakness, swollen, painful lymph nodes called buboes. And those buboes often would rupture, creating agonizing pain that was truly like no other. Now, as the infection spread, individuals would also experience severe abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, and difficulty breathing. The works. The body would then go into septic shock, leading to organ failure, which was coupled with extreme pain and much confusion. Speaking of which, the psychological aspect of the suffering from the plague was pretty much just as bad as the pain, as individuals often felt a sense of helplessness, deep depression, and a fear of the unknown. They were just totally fucked physically and mentally, to put it scientifically. Not to mention, throughout history, plague outbreaks have also been accompanied by social isolation, which a lot of us have experienced in the past few years. Isolation, panic, the economy goes in the shitter. It's a whole crapshoot, to be honest. Well, as the disease made its way through Europe in the 14th century, killing millions, the Soviets decided to ask a question that changed the course of history and kickstarted biological warfare as we know it. And the question was, what if this deadly disease could be harnessed? And furthermore, what if it could be used as a weapon? Enter biopreparat. I hope I'm saying that right. It was the largest and most sophisticated offensive biological warfare program the world has ever seen, aka the Soviet Union's secret biological weapons program, which started in 1974, I believe. It was scientists working in top secret facilities across the country, armed with the darkest knowledge of microbial warfare, and they began frantically searching for a way to weaponize the Black Death. And they kind of succeeded. By the late 1980s, reports began to emerge of strange outbreaks in Soviet-controlled areas. You see, the Soviet leadership believed they could control the plague, but as history has shown, once unleashed, the plague knows no bounds. So to put it lightly, and to make a long story short, because I'm probably running out of time, a crap ton of people died from their attempt to weaponize the plague. Along with the plague, by the way, the Soviets managed to develop antibiotic-resistant strains of anthrax, tularemia, and glanders, which are really bad and it killed a lot of people. It's also believed that the Soviets created smallpox, but that one's a little more speculation, but I believe it. But I think the scariest thing about the whole thing is that they kickstarted biological warfare, which is still around to this day, and in total it's said to have claimed the lives of more than 100,000 people, but I think the number's a lot higher. So I just want you, both of you, and all of you to think about that. Think about biological warfare the next time you step outside and take a big, deep breath of what you think is fresh air, but is possibly laced with antibiotic strains of things that will give you a slow, painful, tumultuous, treacherous, terrible death.
All right, well, yeah, biowarfare is probably one of the freakiest things out there in the world, for sure. I definitely will agree with that. It was specifically the Black Plague they were weaponizing?
Yes, that was Black Plague. Their bread and butter.
Huh.
The plague.
I've definitely heard. I mean, I've heard about, some of the. I've looked into some of these kind of crazy experiments they were doing in the cold. I mean, the States was doing stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a time where some interesting experiments were being done all over the board, really. Not even just on biowarfare, but like, hey, can we fuse two different animal heads together?
Quit giving away my material.
Like hey, you gotta foreshadow stuff for the audience.
See, James even thinks science is more interesting.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna go that far. I mean, well, no, you know what? I mean, for as much as I talk about paranormal stuff being. I'm not saying it's better than science stuff. I'm just entertained by a lot of stories about little spooky creatures.
Two things can exist in one space.
There's enough room in this town for both of us, but not on this show. On this show, you guys pick a winner, but not on this episode. On this episode, it is our crew
Like the
once
last
again.
two. Because we haven't launched yet, so how the heck are you going to vote?
We promise, guys, you will eventually get to vote.
Yeah.
All right.
Friends.
Voting time?
Yeah.
Voting time.
James is 1, Hannah is 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, damn.
Oh, damn.
Yes!
No rock, paper, scissors this time either. It's just
Wow.
a win for Hannah.
Thanks, guys.
Watch me just get crickets.
I'd be so mad.
Because I'm not too worried about the crickets.
All right, James, spin that wheel.
Spin the wheel.
I'm not even going to look at what it is.
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce.
Just hot sauce?
Just
Yeah.
hot sauce.
Which,
Why
by
is
the
that
rules,
kind of
that
worse?
means a spoonful.
Oh, God.
Are you good with spice?
Is this hot ones now? That's what he asks every time. I'm all right with spice. Like, I definitely like a bit of a kick to my food. But,
It's going to be a bit of a kick, yeah.
but there's definitely some sauce that's too much for me. We'll see if I can do it without. Yeah. It does smell like, yeah.
Oh!
God.
Say when.
Oh, yeah, when? All right.
I think you should, when you do it, put it on
On
your
the tongue?
yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Oh. Well, I can't not do it now. All right. Oh, God. Okay.
Is it not that
Okay.
hot?
We'll just speed up the footage till it, because it does feel like it's getting a little hotter. It's not the worst.
I'm so mad.
I gotta be honest.
I thought it was really bad.
It's not the worst.
Did I bring like bum hot sauce? What does that even mean?
It's also really hot in this room though, which
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
help.
really hot.
But that's
Oh,
not
man.
that's not the worst. I was expecting it to be worse. But okay, so here's what's good. You guys know we're not faking stuff for the camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because otherwise James would be all like, ah!
Right. I'm not gonna do that YouTube thing where I'm like, oh, and start running around the room and like, you're doing those crazy faces for like the thumbnail. I'm not doing that. We
That's
are
hilarious.
real here. Well,
If you guys have any suggestions of punishments you would like to see James and I, preferably James, do in the future, feel free to comment down below. And I know that Patrick and Elizabeth were our star voters today, but we still want to know what you think, so let us know down in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe and follow us on social media. Links are in the bio.
thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.
Wait, cheers me.
I'm out. Cheers.